welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name's Joe. In this video, we will be looking at the game Enemy Action Kharkov, Popov versus Manstein, 1943. This is from Compass Games and is designed by John Butterfield. The interesting thing about this game is that it has three versions, basically. You have the two-player version, and then you have a solo version for both the German side and the Soviet side. We will be playing as the Soviet side. So we're playing the Soviet solo game. We're going to get started right away here because this could take a little bit. There's a lot of decision making that needs to be, or procedural stuff, I guess would be a better way to put it, when the enemy moves are being figured out. So it is card driven, but there are branching decisions and actions that you need to kind of follow to actually execute the orders for the AI, the paper AI, as it is referred to in the rules. And in this case, that would be controlling the Germans. So here, this is the bottom right corner of the map. Now, the orientation in terms of the compass would be this way would be north. So that would be west, east, and south. So this is the front line here. And we're just kind of tucked here in the corner, as I said. So Kharkov itself is right up here, just off shot, literally right above my finger here. And, you have a couple of major rivers here. You have the Dnieper, which is up that way, and the Donets, which is here. And then some minor rivers and so on and so forth as well that we will have to deal with. So as you can see, the colors kind of tell you the groupings of the forces. So this kind of golden color here, these are the Russian forces of the Voronezh front. And then we have these kind of reddish orangey ones here. This would be the southwestern front. So these are the Soviet forces. Then these kind of gray backed ones are German forces, as you would expect. And they are divided into three organizations. You have the 1st Panzer Army, which is this kind of lightish gray. The 4th Panzer Army, which is the darker gray. And then Army Detachment, this is the 4th Panzer Army, the really dark gray. This kind of mid-range gray is the Army Detachment Kempf, which right now is just the Rouse unit here. The organization of the forces follows historical guidelines, of course. So the Soviets are fronts, and then armies, and the Germans generally are armies and then corps underneath them, so corps. So you have like the 57th here, the 57th Corps, and the here's the Großdeutschland division as part of the 48th Corps, and so on and so forth. But this is a subunit of the 4th Panzer Army. And then you have lines here which kind of denote army boundaries on the German side and front boundaries on the Soviet side. So we'll get into that a little bit more as we play. But basically, we are set up and ready to go. The Soviets have initiative through turn 6, and then after that, it switches over to the Germans. It is a 14-turn game if you play the entire campaign. We'll see how long we get here. But what we're going to do is we have a couple card areas here. So this is the Soviet card display for both the two-player game and the Soviet solo. So we're going to draw from this. The Soviet's hand is always 5 cards, and the German hand in general varies, but in the solitaire, they don't really have a limit. They just kind of draw from their deck. We get 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we can look at our cards, and they have several areas. So you can play them for things like events, or you can use the activation. So this one would let us activate 40th Army, which is over here. And there's only a couple of units of that army on the board here. This would be 6th Army, which is right here. And you match the color, and the color at the top is the overall or higher command. We have 3rd Tank Army, which is the biggest Soviet force, and that's these guys right here, the light blue, and you can see 3T, 3rd Tank. They're part of the Voronezh front. Sixth Army, we apparently have 2 of those, and we also have First Guards Army, which is over here, and we also only have a couple of them on as well. So if you look at here, right, you can see there's a command rating here, higher is better. Then you also have actions you can do with this card. You can deploy all your First Guard Army reserves. There is actually 1 unit in reserve right now that we could deploy if we use this. We can activate all the units in the First Guard Army. Or we can activate any 1 unit, and when they say any 1 unit, they mean any Soviet unit, and you can only do that once per turn. Then you have a combat tactic that you can play it for. If you're in combat, you can play this for artillery. Now, speaking of artillery, before we go too much further, this line is the artillery line. What is it called again? Yeah, Soviet artillery line. That in the first 2 turns of the game, you automatically get basically this tactic, this artillery, for anything in this area, inside the boundary of this area here. And then later on, this becomes the Eastern support line, and we'll get into that if we get that far. So those are the things you can do. And then primary indicates that this is a card that is a primary card, so it will always be available to you. All your primary cards are available every turn. So you can see we've got 3 primary cards and 2 of what are called supplemental cards. And some of these are turn limited, where you might not get it until game turn 2 or 3 or whatever. So in this case, what we would probably want to do is activate the 3rd Tank Army, because it is the largest. And you can see here that you have some opportunities perhaps to punch a hole through the Germans. The game does have zones of control, so they would be the 6 hexes adjacent to your unit. So in this case, this German unit here from Großdeutschland has these hexes are in its zone of control. They can overlap between both sides. But basically what it does is it limits your ability to move. So you can't move directly from, for example, this hex here is in obviously the zone of control of both this unit and this unit. So he could not move directly to this hex because you can't move directly from one zone of control, one enemy zone of control, to another. What you can do, though, is say down here, let's say this guy wanted to move to this hex. Now he can't technically because he's in the zone of control of his current hex is zone of control of both these units. But he could move out, which costs 1 extra movement point, and his movement factor is a 4 because he's an infantry unit. So he could move out to here, which removes him from the zone of control, for 2. So this would cost him 2. Then he could go 3 and 4. So in essence, he's moving only 1 hex over, but he can do it by going around. You have to basically avoid the enemy zone of control. And this is, John Butterfield himself showed this particular thing in his videos on the game. So it is something you can do. So if we wanted to, we could actually take this guy and do that. Move him here, then here, then here, and have him set up here to attack this guy. What you also can set up is a flanking attack where basically you have like these 2. If these 2 units attack this guy, it's a flanking attack because they're not adjacent to each other. Or if you had a unit here as well, you'd have 3, and it would still be a flanking attack. And then if you look at their zones of control, because this one extends to here, and this one extends to here, and this one extends to here, as does these, there's only 1 hex open. This guy is essentially in danger of being surrounded. So he's a little limited in what he can do, because obviously he would have to move back and then move in or whatever, as I've already explained. What I'm going to do instead is play this card, which allows us to activate all units in the 6th Army. So the 6th Army is these guys right here. Now, this is a little bit shakier in terms of being able to do certain things, because we can't really get either of these guys into like a flank situation. But what I could do is simply try to punch a hole, right? This is fairly thin. The whole German line is fairly thin along this area. So we have a bunch of infantry here. They don't have any tanks in here. These are all infantry. But if I move Your stacking limit is 6 steps, and steps on the counter. Take a look at the counter here. So the 2 dots here, that's the number of steps. So this is a 2-step unit. So you can have 6 steps or 3 units in a hex. So if they were 3 1-step units, that's all you could have in there. You could have 2 3-step units. That would be 6 steps. That would also be the limit. So you get the picture. So we'll leave the 2 4 here. We'll leave him there. We'll take this guy and we'll move here, which costs us 2. And he can move here for 3, and then here is 4. Okay, so now what we'll do is we will attack this unit. So we have a total of 1. We have 2 2-step units here and 2 2-step units there. Sorry, I knocked my reserve counters over, or reduced counters rather. So we have 4 here, so that's going to be 4 chits, and combat is resolved by chit pull. So we have 4 chits, and we have a total strength of 7, and 7 is 14. He's a 3, so that is a 14 to 3 is a 4 to 1, because you always have to round down. So this one is actually going to be a discard, and that's a primary card, so I put that aside. We'll get that back next turn, maybe, depending on the draw. But it will be available to us. So now we have to pull as many chits as there are steps in the enemy unit. So that would be 2 initially, and then we can pull up to 2 more because we have a total of 4 available to us. So this isn't a great attack here. And so we get, so here's our first chit. It's attacker artillery D1. It's also one of the restore the chits to the cup, which is weird because this is literally the first chit I pulled, and I did shake them up, but anyway. So these are going to end up back in the cup right after this combat, but we have a D1 on that side, and on the other side, we have defender artillery, which they do. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do something. I just realized I forgot to draw the German command card. So we draw a card for the Germans, and we look at their combat tactic, and it says screen defense only. So they're going to play a tactic here on us. And what that does is here, screen defender only, reduce the maximum combat chit draws by 2. We're only going to have 2 chits. So the 2 chits I already drew basically is all we're going to get. So to get back to the chits themselves, this one says attacker artillery D1. The flip side says defender artillery A1, which would be a step loss for the attacker, and it has a P, which means priority. So if both apply, you take the one with the priority. In this case, the defender does not have artillery, but the attacker does. So that is going to be a 1-step loss for the Germans. And then this one says city or attack not supported. Neither of those are in effect right now. He's not in a city, and we're not using support yet. That comes in later in the game. Flip side says town, woods, broken, and he is in clear terrain. So that does not apply either. So basically what we ended up with is a D1. To resolve this, basically you have options, and you have to go through the decision tree, and this is the first time where we're going to have to go through the decision tree for the German AI. Okay, so here we go. Assign hits to German defenders 1 hit at a time according to their first priority. That applies. They have not retreated yet. You can retreat. Now that would erase 1 step loss. If the number of hits remaining is greater than or equal to the number of steps in the defending units, retreat 1 hex. That's not true either because there's only 1 hit and they're at a 2-step unit. So you go to conduct hold check. So you calculate the defender's hold chance, number of steps, which is 2, plus twice the victory point value. That's 0. That's a 0. That's a 0. That does not apply. That does not apply. That does not apply. I don't think. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. DOS is danger of surround. And if defending units have already retreated 1 hex, they can retreat 1 hex. So that would make this a 4. and you roll the die, and if it's greater than the hold chance, you apply. Actually, no. You know what? They just retreat one, which takes care of this, so we don't even have to worry about the second part of that. I'm going to put this back in my cup and shake them up. So that completed the Soviet activation, which was kind of lame, although they can advance. So we will advance 4 and this 4 as well. They can eat. Not much happened there. That was not a great army to activate, and only being able to act 2 of the 3rd tank stacks. Like, you would want to activate 1 infantry, which only leaves 1 tank, which could be this stack or this stack, which is still good, but we'd be attacking armor most likely as well. Although I guess I could have attacked here, but not a big deal. We're going to, and I could have played some combat tactics myself, probably. But anyway, we're going to move on. Oh, I do draw a card. And I drew the 69th Army, which will let me activate all the units in the 69th Army, which is over here. Okay, so now we draw a command card for the Germans, and we get 4th Panzer Army, 48th Panzer Corps. Okay, so that would be these guys right here. Deploy all 48th Panzer Corps reserves. There aren't any right now. The second choice, third turn, and later, which is obviously not the case. Then we would have activate all units in the 48th Panzer Corps. So that is the one we will attempt to do. Now, as I mentioned, there are action steps that we have to go through to determine what they do. And part of determining things like this is you look at the counter for the units that are involved. And it says the middle number here, 0, 1. That is its priority. So that one's 01, that one's 02, and that one's 03. Now what we would do next is we have here on our player aid card, we have our action steps. And this kind of triangle will determine whether you go in ascending order, which would mean we'd start at 0, 1 and move up 0, 2, 0, 3. So 0, 1 would go first. And then if you get down here to the bottom ones, you'd start at the highest number and go down. So ascending versus descending. If behind Soviet lines, we're not behind Soviet lines. Move to empty or garrison victory point hex to which Soviet unit proximate. Now you're going to see this word proximate a lot in the solo games. What it means is a unit that can get to that hex in its next activation. So basically, can it move there? If city may end up in danger of surround. If starting in victory point hex, destination must have greater victory points. Okay, so let's see. Now, there isn't going to be a whole lot that's going to be proximate for the Soviets because this is all gummed up here. So there's a bunch of zones of control, right? Like he's in one and can't move there because that's also in one. And that's going to be true here and here and here and so on, all the way across because we've got alternating. So you have basically like Zach bonds almost, right? You can't really cross through here because you're moving from one to another one. So basically like a Zach bond kind of thing. So there are no proximate hexes, so which means we have to move on. So if in 4th Panzer Army or Corps Rouse, and they are in the 4th Panzer Army, and in Soviet artillery zone, and that is also true because this is the artillery zone, move to hex outside zone. Prefer A, not in danger of surround, empty, not adjacent to a German unit, non-clear hex. First time during move that unit leaves position hex or leaves hex adjacent to empty position hex, not adjacent to Soviet unit, place garrison in that position hex. So we haven't really talked about garrisons, but basically they kind of exert a zone of control and they slow the Soviets down. The Soviets have to stop when they become adjacent to one of those guys. So we will place some garrisons here in a moment. So for example, we would start with him and you move to a position number hex. So this one is 34. So he would move, and he can do this because he'll be out of zone of control. His movement is a 6. So this would cost 2, 3, and then to move into a forested hex. We can look at our terrain chart here. Woods for mech costs 3. So he was here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a legal move, and he's there. Now we stick a garrison in the hex that he left, like that. Now for this one, he'd go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That I think into the city. No, it's still only 1, so he can do that. So he's going to move here, and then he gets a garrison as well. And then our third guy, he's got an pretty easy choice. Because he can go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the furthest he could go. He can't, I don't think he can cross the river cheaply enough. That's the Donets, and that costs 2. So it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. He can't do that. So he's going to go here. And we stick a garrison there as well. And that is the German activation. And we go back to the Soviets. Now I did draw that new card, the 69th Army. And so what happens then is we can look at how you deal with a garrison. Okay, so we have our 69th Army and we're going to activate it. Now as soon as we activate it, because this garrison is adjacent to a newly activated Soviet unit, it automatically gets removed. Really, garrisons are like speed bumps that only really have an impact when they're advanced towards by somebody that's not already adjacent to them. So if I activate 3rd tank, that would remove these 2. So you get the picture. But if say this garrison was here and these 2 units were back here and got activated, they'd move here and have to stop. And then the garrison would stay there, and then on their next activation, it would get removed. So we're going to remove that. Now, we're going to do an attack on these 2 core Rouse units, which have a total strength of 4 and is 3 steps. So we'll get 3 chits that we'll have to pull. So we've got a total of 2 here with a total strength of 6. And then we'll move this guy up 1. And this guy's not in a Zok anymore. So he can go 1, 2. Or even better, we can do this. He was here, so we can go 1, 2, 3, which sets up a flank now on here, because some chits will have a flank on them where you can maybe get an extra hit out of it. Now, we also will probably, I think, play a combat tactic. We're going to use our 3rd tank army card, which I'm kind of hesitant to do, but I might be able to draw one out of the draw pile, hopefully. But we're going to use it here at the bottom. You see combat tactic 1 through 5. That's turns 1 through 5. You get a tank brigade. Now, what a tank brigade does, if we go down here, you can see add 2 to Soviet combat strength if attacking, 1 if defending. This adds armor to Soviet units in the combat if they do not already possess armor, and we don't because it was all infantry. And it's also going to reduce the hits incurred by the Soviets in the combat by 1. So any A's that show up, we will be able to remove 1. Now we do have to draw 3, and we can draw a total of 4. So actually, I have to draw the German card. I always forget that. So here's the German card for combat tactics. For turns 1 through 3, pull out on defense. And this is defense. Pull out. If the combat ratio is greater or equal to 4 to 1, and in a non-victory point hex, retreat the defending stack 2 hexes prior to combat in accordance with retreat rules, but do not place dispersed markers. The retreat must end in a hex in German supply. Attack is considered resolved. Discard any attacker combat tactics, and the attackers may advance after combat. Okay, so his total strength is 4. Our total strength is 5 and 5, I think. No, 6. So that's 11. 11 to 4 is only 2 to 1. So he's not going to He's not going to implement that. So, but this card still is basically expended. So we're going to draw 3 chits to start, and then we can draw a 4th one if we'd like. And so here's our first one. Greater than or equal to 8 to 1. It's not. Less than 3 to 1, A1. So there you go. There's our first hit, which will ultimately get negated by our tactic. Then we have attacker artillery, which is obviously in effect. Oh, and I get an extra chit pulse, so I actually have 5. I forgot about that. And they do not have artillery, so that one does get applied as well. And then we have an air power one, which is not air power and support, not in there. Soviet air power, also not in there. So that one is a no. We're not using that. Now I'm going to pull 2 more because I get 5 total. 4 for the units. Oh, wait, I get 3 more. There's 4 for the units. We've already pulled 3, so that would leave 1. I get 2 more. 3 more. It's a total of 6. Because we have the artillery combat tactic that's automatically applied, plus we played the tank brigade tactic, so that gives us 2 extra chits. So again, we get the colored attacker artillery, so that's going to give us another D1. Then we get city or attack or not supported, nope. Town woods broken, also does not apply. Then we have this one, which is greater than or equal to 6 to 1, which is not the case. And then we have greater than or equal to 4 to 1, which is also not the case. So that one is also not. So we get 2 Ds and 1 A that gets canceled by the tank brigade. And these all go back in, and we shake it up again. And this time, let's see if I can really get a good. I don't keep pulling out the blue chips there. There. Hopefully that'll do it. So these cards get expended. So these 2. So they have 2 steps they have to handle. So if they retreat 1 here, then that removes 1, and they have 1 left to do. Now they can retreat again, but we have to look at our decision matrix again. Okay, so we don't have to worry about. Okay, so we have not retreated 2 hexes, we retreated 1. Okay. The number of hits remaining is greater than or equal to the number of steps in defending units retreat 1 hex. It's not. We have 1 hit and 3 steps. So we're going to, I believe, roll here. So we have 3 steps. There's no victory point. It's not woods or anything. There's no river. None of this applies. +2 if retreat would require an extra step loss. It would. No, it wouldn't, but it would result in. It also would not necessarily change the possibility of surround, but they do get a +2, so that's going to be a 5. So we're going to roll our die here, and we'll roll it, and we get a 0, which in this case is a 10. So it's greater than that, and if it's greater than that, you get defenders hold chance retreat 1 hex. So they're going to retreat another hex, and they're going to get dispersed because they did that. Now what dispersed means, there's some effects of that, and we'll talk about it if and when it comes up. But for now, I'm just going to mark them as being dispersed. These guys can advance 1 hex. I'll move him here and leave that like that, I think, because we're trying to kind of push in this direction, obviously. Okay, so now we go back to the Germans. We draw an action, not an action, a command card. Deploy all reserves in 1st Panzer Army if at least 3 units. Deploy all reserves in 1st Panzer Army. 1st Panzer Army, we do have some. And so that would be, yeah, because the 2+, the 2+ would be if at least 3 units eligible. I did draw 2 cards, and I drew these 2, which are good ones to draw because they are Mobile Group Popov and 3rd Tank Army, which allows me to activate all of those units. Popov is over here, and that's a heavily armored, strong unit, and obviously 3rd Tank is a big unit as well. So I'm happy to have drawn those. But to get back to where we are here, we're going to deploy all reserves from the 1st Panzer Army. So this is the 1st Panzer Army here. And there's a line that the card is sitting on. This line right here is their deployment zone, and I have to deploy on that side of it because that goes all the way out to the south, because again, this way is north. So they have several units in here. 2 from the 40th Corps and 1 from the 3rd Corps. So again, we have a process to follow here. Units in German reserve box are deployed, placed on the map during German impulse via deploy reserves command, which is what we're doing. So units in reserve box, right? We do all this. Check every eligible unit by method A first in turns 1 through 3. Deploy those meeting criteria, those that don't remain in box, so they may not get deployed. And then from turns 4 on, you use B. Basically, that represents the change in doctrine for the Germans during this battle, where they started off on the defensive and they slowly built up a counterattacking force. Von Manstein's backhand blow. So they had the change in doctrine, so that's why you get the change over here, where they start to become a little bit more aggressive in the second part of the game. Method A, place unit in position hex meeting all criteria. Hex is empty or garrisoned, or is a city hex occupied by only 1 German step. In reserve units army area, so that's why it has to be in this area here, and if I have to move the map over to show that, I will. All right, let's get this focused again, right? Not in the Soviet artillery barrage zone. In German reserve supply, where reserve placed in hex, Soviet unit proximate to hex, or in turns 3, 4, hex is a German city. So proximate again means they can get to it. So that might be an issue here. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is going to be an issue. That's going to shut us down anyway. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to not be able to do that action. So let's resolve that right now, because I'm pretty sure that there is no Soviet units that can be proximate. And here's why. So these are our units. Let's move these guys up because they're not in this calculation. They're just sitting there pending deployment. So they're going to deploy. They have to deploy to this side of this line, the left side. And so again, we have German unit, German unit, German unit, German unit. So we have Zach here, here, and here, and here. And so none of these Soviet units, because they're already in a Zach, like this guy, he's not. Actually, he is in a Zach, but let's just say this guy, for example. As soon as he moves here, he's in this guy's zone of control. Therefore, he's blocked off. So all of these units are blocked off. Rouse is here. Those are German units. So none of the 6th Army can get over there. Obviously, 3rd Tank is way out of the picture. It would be Popov and 1st Guards that would have a shot, and they don't. So we cannot execute that. So then we have, in turns 1, 2, event, 1st Panzer Army delaying force. So let me put these guys back in the box. And I haven't shown the box, but it's just a box on the map that holds reserve units. Delaying force. In the indicated German army area, place a detachment in an empty position that is in German reserve supply and in a victory hex or within 5 hexes of a German unit, and to which a Soviet unit is proximate but not adjacent. So again, we don't have anybody who's going to be proximate. So we go to the 3rd and final one, which is activate all 1st Panzer units within 2 hexes of the 1st Panzer A unit with the most 1st Panzer Army units in its 2 hex radius. So the whole 1st Panzer Army would include all of these guys. So the 3rd Corps and the 40th Corps, of which there's only 1 unit on here. So the one that would be have the most within 2 hexes is probably this one in Slavyansk, because he's sitting in the city here, and he's 2 hexes away, he's 2 hexes away, and he's 2 hexes away. This one would also qualify because he's got 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, so that's 3 and 3. But if we use the selector number, this 01 is here, is lower. So I think that's what we would do. So we're going to activate. Actually, if we just we'd be activating the third. Doesn't matter because we're going to have to activate. We're going to activate this guy, this one, and this one, I guess. That seems to be the logical choice here. Okay, so we're back to looking at our action steps. So we're not behind Soviet lines. We already know we don't have any proximate Soviet units. We're not in the 4th Panzer Army or Korps. If in danger of surround, none of these units are currently in danger of surround. So we go to 5, draw action card. So here's where we're going to have an action card draw. So we draw an action card, which is a separate deck. And you can see here on the card itself, we have a situation that we have to make sure applies. And then if it does apply, we can take the action. So the situation is active unit in non-victory point hex and proximate to victory point hex occupied by at least 1 German step, and not by more steps than the hex's victory point value, and to which a supplied Soviet unit is proximate. I think we actually have that. Because this is a victory point hex, we have a German unit in it. So this guy's proximate. This guy, he can get there, I think. That's broken terrain. So he'd have to go here, which I think costs 2 plus 1. So that would cost 3. Yeah, so he can get there. That's 4. This one, I don't know if he can get there. Well, yeah, he probably can't because his movement's only a 4, and we've got a Zak here and here. So he'd have to kind of almost go up here and then around, and there's no way he gets there. This guy down here, however, is because he's not currently in a Zak, and he could just move here and be proximate. Oh no, proximate means they can actually get into the hex. That's right. So if he moved here, that would be 3, 4. Yes, he can get there. He can get there. These 2 are the only 2 that are proximate, I guess. Although he could get there probably. He has to cross the river. So we've got minor river. That would be 2, 3. Yeah, he can get there. So this one, and this one are proximate. So action. Oh, we're already proximate. So by not more than, it's 2. So we're trying to get somebody into the hex. Okay. So prefer hex with highest victory point value occupied by least strengths. All units in this destination are considered to have performed an action. So until it's over so the victory point value here is 2, and there's 2 steps in there, so they're equal. If we move 1 unit in there, it's going to basically make it over, and then it will cancel that out. Now, this one has the down triangle, meaning we start with the highest number, and that is the 8 here, because he's a 2 and he's 6. So I'm going to take this guy and just move him here. That completes this action, so we discard it, and now we draw another one because we have other units that are activated. This one's activated, and so is that one. Situation, pull back. Active unit in danger of surround and proximate to a hex not in danger of surround. I don't think any of these guys are actually in danger of surround. Like, he could go here, but that's a Zak for this guy. So nobody's in danger of surround. Okay, so going through the rest of the sequence, I believe what ends up happening is we end up with an improved position for this unit. Going to do that, and this is an improved position marker. We're just going to put this on here. And that will end their activation. We drew 2 action cards, which I believe is the limit. And so now we will move on, go back to the Soviet side. And this time I'm going to activate 3rd Tank Army. So this is one I was hoping to get at some point, and I did. So we're going to take this, and we're going to activate these. So all of these guys are now activated, which removes these 2 garrisons. And now we got a big old hole here. So that's going to make things a little easier as we try to break out, right? We may want to use this side to attack here and, maybe shove him aside or make him retreat so that we can push up in this area. So this guy can just move. He can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this one can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll send this one up there as well, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now these are all 2-step. Oh, that's a 3-step. So we can't do that. That's a 3 steps, which is a large unit. So we can put 2 in there, and that's 5 steps in there. Now this one can go. We'll send him here. And then we'll send this one 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that. Let's put him here. And then we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. Like so. Then we'll take this one. That's a 3-stepper as well. So we'll take this guy and we'll go 1, 2. Put him here. And we'll put this guy here and this guy here. And attack this unit. So we're going to probably have multiple attacks here. We'll attack here. It's 9 to 4. And this one is 9 to 4 as well. We're definitely attacking here. So here we're going to have, you get 2 chits for large units. So that's going to be 4 chits there. Plus 3 more is 7 chits. Plus we get the artillery barrage, which makes it 8. And I will not play a card for combat here. I may do it up here. So they are a 2. Let me draw their card. So their combat tactic is air power. So air power and artillery aid the attacker or defender each time the tactic is named on a drawn combat chit. So pretty straightforward. It's just like artillery, basically. They have 2, so we're going to pull 2 chits first. And the first thing we get is our friend, the attacker artillery. So that applies. In this one, we have greater than or equal to 1.5 to 1 would be a hit on both sides. And on the back is less than 1.5 to 1. So this one's going to apply here because we have 8 plus 12 is 20. 20 to 3 is 6 to 1. Almost 7 to 1. So we are now entitled to, we have our artillery, plus we have 4 here, and 3, we have 7, we have 8 total, so I'm going to pull 6 more chits out. And we have greater than 6 to 1, that's a D2. Greater than or equal to 6 to 1, so that one applies. The next one is city or woods. It is not, so that one does not apply. Then we have attacker artillery, and on the back, defender artillery. So attacker artillery does apply. So we're piling them up here. German air power does apply, or Soviet not supported. On the back, Soviet air power, we don't. So this one applies as well. And that's going to remove a German hit and apply one to the Soviets. And then we have this one, which is NKVD, which we do not have. Greater than or equal to 3 to 1, we do have. So that's going to be another hit. So the Soviets actually have 3 hits now, which is surprising. And then I need to pull 2 more out. So only attacker armor. That is actually the case. In turns 1 to 11, that's a D1. The other side is only defender armor. So the attackers do have armor and the defender does not. And then we have city or attack not supported. And then we have clear, which is another A1, D1. So this is a bloody, bloody battle here. And I should have stopped at like 4 chits instead of pulling them all. So we have 1, 3, 4, 5 defender hits. So he's going to be eliminated. We're going to take 1 back. So that makes it 4. Then we're going to add another one for 5 and add 2 more for 7. So he's got 7 hits, and the attacker has 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 to the attacker, 7 to the Germans. They can't absorb that many hits, so he's going to be eliminated. Now, because he is a multi-step unit, we're going to flip him over and we're going to put him in the eliminated unit box, but he'll be able to come back as a reduced 1-step unit. We'll put him in there. Now we have to take the 4 hits for the Soviets, which is a lot. Not gonna lie, that's a lot. So we'll start by reducing our 2 3s here. Now these, if you look at the back, they're blank because this is a 3-step. So this actually has 2 counters. We need to find the 6th Guards Cavalry, which happens to be right here. I already pulled these out. So this is the 2-step version of this guy. So this guy goes out and this guy comes in. So that's 1 hit, and it is an armored unit. So that's the first priority for taking a hit. Then the second one is going to go to this guy, 62nd Guards. And that is this counter right here. So he goes here. So that's 2, and I have 2 left to do. So we will apply. So I could have just elected to take 1 hit and then dispersed everybody, but I don't want to do that. So we're going to just reduce. We'll reduce the infantry and 1 of the tank units. And now they can advance. So the infantry here can go here. And you can move up regardless of zone of control. And I'm going to move these guys up to here. And I'm going to actually move this guy up here as well. There is no zone of control. Those are Soviet units. Just realized that, so that was kind of dumb. Now here, he's outside the artillery zone, but I'm going to attack him anyway. So because he's outside that, we don't get a free combat tactic for artillery. So looking at my other cards here, I'm going to use this one for fixed artillery, which is basically the same thing. So this one will give us artillery in the combat for right here, giving us a 4th chit as well as, basically it's giving us the 4th chit. Plus we'll have artillery in the combat if the chit calls for that. So they have 2. We'll draw a card for them. They're 2 steps. So combat, now it's 1. We're in the first turn, obviously, so screen, defense only. So screen, defense only. Reduce the maximum number of combat chit draws by 2. So our 4 now becomes a 2. We're only going to get two chit pulls here. Pull 2 chits out, and we get greater than 3 to 1 will be a D1. Less than 2 to 1 is an A1. So they have 6, 9, 4. So they are 2 to 1. So that one does not apply. Attacker command 3, 4, or 5. Now, the card we used to activate was this one, and it's a 3. So this one does apply. So that's a D1. Now, the other side is attacker command 1 would be an A1. So we do get 1 hit. So that 1 hit will be satisfied by them retreating. We'll advance our unit there, up, and these guys go out. And that is the end of that. That was a quick and easy one. I have 3 left, so I draw 2. And we got the Voronezh front and Mobile Group Popov. Second Mobile Group Popov here. All right. So there are 2 cards remaining in the draw pile for the Soviets. And once we run out of cards, the turn is over. So we go back to the Germans. We'll draw a command card for them. Now we have deploy all German reserves. This is the Army Group South card, and you can see the massive command number at the top. So this is the entire Army Group. So this is von Manstein taking charge here. Deploy all German reserves in turns 2 and later if at least 4 units are eligible. The Germans have a bunch of units. They have 6, I think, total, which isn't a bunch, but it's a decent number. So again, we're going to end up with, we know we can't deploy units in here, and the situation hasn't changed enough to change that particular situation. But we do have the 2nd SS Corps, which are these 3 units right here. So I know I can't deploy the ones from 1st Panzer Army, but these guys can possibly be deployed. So we have to go through our deployment checks again. So I'll put these units right here on the card just to keep things easy for myself. Okay, so following our deployment here with method A, which is still in effect, I think we have a shot at actually getting some of these guys out onto the map. So we need an empty hex or garrison, or a city that's occupied by 1 German step. In the army area, which for these guys is this here, between these 2 lines. So we do have Soviet units here that are not in ZOC, which means they can move, like this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, can get up into this area. So not in the barrage zone, so north of this line, or west of that line, rather. Soviet unit proximate to hex. That's the key thing that we've been struggling to get. Unit would not be in danger of surround if placed in hex unless in a German city and German map edge hex. Place where it removes the danger of surround from another German unit, or in turn 5 and on, it's outside Soviet support. Hex is not Soviet town or city. Not adjacent to a German unit unless the placement hex is a victory point hex or adjacent German unit can't trace supply. All right, so we want to do, in terms of qualifying position hexes, because there are some in this case, we want the victory point hex with the lowest position number. These are position numbers, so 45 here is a position number. Its lowest position number in a victory hex within 3 hexes of a unit in the same corps. There is 1 unit, and it's up here in Kharkov, which is off shot, I know. That's the only unit from this 2nd SS Corps. Hex that removes the danger of surround or enables a German unit to trace supply, not in danger of surround, non-map edge hex. Lowest position number is last. Has to have all of that stuff, so it has to be proximate. So these are armored units, and that one's a 7. So it could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because this is a road, it can cross that bridge. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It can get all the way up into here. So this would be a possible location, and it is 1, 2, 3 from there. So we will place our first unit in here, like so. Then our second one has to be 3 away from there as well. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If it went here, we've got a zone of control. So I think this one would be second. And it's outside the barrage zone. Things tighten up now because putting this here makes it harder for these other units to become proximate. For these guys to become proximate. We might not be able to deploy this one. Yeah, I don't think we can deploy the third one. The third one I'm going to put back in the box because this closes the hole. There's no hole to get over here for these guys. So we can't make anybody else proximate. So we would move back to the Soviets. We're going to activate mobile group Popov, which are these guys here. And what we will do is we will move this unit here. We'll move this unit here. We will move this unit, this unit here. So these 3 will attack this Rouse unit right here. So let's draw a card. And combat tactics will not apply. And it doesn't say to stick it back in, so they're just not going to use tactics on this turn. Some of the cards will say return to draw pile and reshuffle, but that one did not say that. So counting it up, we've got a large here, so that's 2 chits. This will also be 2 chits. These are 1 each, so that's a total of 6 chits. We're in the barrage zone, so we get the bonus for 7. So we're going to draw our first 2 chits out. And we get a reshuffle or a return to cup. City, town, woods, that is not the case. The other side is dispersed, unsupplied. That is also not the case. So that one is a no. This one is greater than 2 to 1, which I believe is going to be the case. And then this one's less than 2 to 1. So there were 3. We have 4, 9, 13, 16. 16 to 3 is a 5 to 1. So this one does apply. Now we have a total of 2, 4, 5, 6. We can draw 4 more, so we will draw all 4. That's 3. This is 4. German air power, no. Soviet air power, no. Greater than 8 to 1, no. Less than 3 to 1, no. Large attack. Yes, this is a large attack. The backside is greater than or equal to 5 to 1, which it is. That takes priority. That is 1 defender hit. So that's the second one. Then we have a greater than or equal to 3 to 1 is a D1. And a less than 2 to 1, which is not the case. So we get 3 defender hits, 1 attacker hit. So the 3 defender hits, okay, so they can satisfy 2 by retreating 2 hexes. And they retreat in the opposite, well, in this case, they're going to go here. Well, I guess they would actually go here to get out of the Zoc, and then 1 more. So that will satisfy 2 losses. And then the third loss, we have to use our chart to figure it out for the hold. Nope, if defender has retreated 2 hexes, apply hit as step loss. Oh, wait. They only retreat 1, and then we do the check. Because it has to be greater than or equal to the number of steps, and it would be less. So they retreat because it was equal. Now it's less because there's 1 hit to resolve. Right? No, it would still be equal, so they would actually retreat again. So that is right. And then the third one, yeah, you apply the hit as a step loss in this case. So they take a step loss. I guess we'll move this one here just to do that because we also have 1 hit ourselves, so we will take it from here and make this guy a 2-stepper. So this one is 10th, and here is his replacement, and you can see a reduced route. You can see the R there, and then obviously there's a 1-step side as well. And the other thing to notice is it stays armored, but its reverse side, it just becomes a mechanized infantry. So we're going to, we took that, now we're going to advance. So he can go here, and then we'll go here. And then this guy will go there as well. And this one he's going to stay there, actually. We'll leave him there. All right, so now we draw for the Germans. And we get the 1st Panzer Army, 40th Panzer Corps Kampfgruppe. So the Kampfgruppe is a little bit different. So first choice is to deploy all 40th Panzer Corps reserves. Again, they would go over here, but we have the same issue with deploying reserves. We already know that we can't get them out because we can't get approximate Soviet unit. So we're going to move to the next step, which is 1-2 event, which is 1st Panzer Army delaying force. So again, we're going to have an issue with this because that also requires a Soviet unit to be proximate. And since it has to be in this area to the south of this line, that's not going to work either. The third one is event air interdiction, and then we have evac. We're going to skip that because that's turn 5 and up only. Then we have activate the 40th Panzer unit with the most 40th Panzer units in its 2 hex radius. And there's only 1 unit, and it's down here. So that unit is going to be activated. Just to streamline things, I went through it, and we're drawing an action card, basically. So this one is escape the pocket. So this one is not going to apply because we do not have any units surrounded or in danger of surround. Or this unit is not actually in that situation. So we're going to draw a second card. And this is deploy flank protection. Place 1 garrison in the lowest numbered empty position meeting all these criteria within 3 hexes of an active unit, not adjacent to a Soviet unit in German reserve supply, would cause a German unit in danger of surround. And then it says, if no hex qualifies, because we do not have a German unit in danger of surround, so if no hex qualifies, do not conduct this action. So that is also a discard. So then we would move on past that to number 6. We already did that. We drew an action card, then we drew another action card, and we would move to hex that removes danger of surround from another German unit. That's not going to apply. If a Soviet unit proximate to empty or garrison German city hex, no. If in non-victory point hex and stacked with or adjacent to other German unit, that does not apply either. Place IP on unit if eligible and Soviet unit proximate. Now that is kind of not really the situation because this unit can't move here because he'd be moving from a zone of control to a zone of control. Although I think there's a rule that you can move off the map edge and then come back. So that might actually mean that this guy could get here. So we're going to play it that way and say that he's proximate, and we're going to give him an improved position. And that completes that. And then we go back to the Soviets. I did not draw my card, so I'm going to take my card, which is 3rd Tank Army. And this one, again, will let us activate the entire 3rd Tank Army. So I think I'm actually going to play this one. So we'll play this one. And so now we can attack again, because the last unit that was activated for the Soviets was Popov. So you can't activate the same unit twice in 2 successive impulses. So that means we could not activate Popov. And I do have another Popov card. But we can activate 3rd Tank, so we are going to do that. We're going to move this guy, I think. Yes, we will go 1, 2, 3. And then this one will go 1, 2, 3. And then these 2 are both 1-steppers. We'll take these. This whole stack, we'll just do this whole stack because it's 6, 4, and 4. 1, 2, 3. We'll just move them here. But we're going to attack. Actually, I'm not done. I need to move this guy up too. 1. Put him there. Because now we've got this guy basically is kind of cut off as well. So he's in danger of surround. And this unit, did I move this unit? I'm going to just move him up too. And if I screwed that up, I'll see it when I edit this, but I'll make a note because that is going to impact this combat, obviously. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 units, so 5 chit draws. We're outside of the barrage. And we have a total of 7, 10, 14, 17. 17 to 4, so it's 4 to 1. We'll draw a card for them. Their tactic is Remnant. Okay, so Remnant is after resolving the combat, place a garrison marker in the lowest numbered empty position within 3 hexes of the attacked hex, not adjacent to a Soviet unit and to which German reserve supply can be traced. Okay, so that's after the combat. So the first thing we get is city or woods. He's in a town, not a city. Then we have clear or broken on the other side. So city, town on one, city, woods rather on one side, clear, broken the other. So that one does not apply. Then we have dispersed, unsupplied, not apply, doesn't apply. Defender adjacent, that does not apply either. So nothing on those first two. Now we can draw out, what did I say we had 5? So we can draw out 3 more. In hindsight, I should have used a tactics card, but I didn't. All right, so greater than 1.5 to 1, it is. Less than 1 to 1, it's not. So that one applies. Then we have greater than or equal to 4 to 1. That one applies and is priority, so it doesn't even matter what's on the other side. And then we have city or attack not supported. And then we have clear. Neither of those applies. So another kind of disappointing combat performance here. So they take 2 and the attacker takes 1. So since they have to take 2, they're going to retreat, I believe, is the first thing they do in that situation. So we will retreat. Retreat, and then we check. So number of hits remaining equals or is greater than the number of steps. Retreat 1 hex. That is not the case anymore. So now we move to number C here, which is add the number of steps, which is 2. There's no victory point. We're not in the woods. We're not unable to trace supply. A retreat would cause an extra step loss. No. Defending units have already retreated 2. So retreated 1 rather. So that would be 2 plus 2 is 4. So we will roll. If it's less than or equal to 4, they're going to take a step loss. If it's higher, it's 2. So it is a 2. So they're going to take step loss and stay there. So we will advance both units. We'll draw our final card, which is a 6th Army activation card. So that may be what I do next. But it's German turn now. A German impulse. So we get 1st Panzer Army 3rd Corps. Deploy all units. They do have 1. But again, they're going to bump up against that proximate issue. So we're going to go to the second one, which is activate all units in the 3rd Corps. So we do have units here, 1, 2, 3, 4, all activated. So we go through our actions again. So we're going to draw an action card. Should have known that because that's what we've been doing. So it's deploy flank protection. So action, place 1 garrison marker in the lowest numbered empty position hex meeting all these criteria within 3 hexes of an active unit not adjacent to a Soviet and German. So it's that last one because we don't have anybody in danger of surround. And I'm assuming this has to apply to the 3rd Corps because there are other units in other places that would be in danger of surround, but not the 3rd Corps. So we're going to discard that and then draw a second card. Escape the pocket. So active unit surrounded or in danger of surround, not in a city or German map edge hex. So this one also is not applicable. So we move on and we're going to end up placing an IP, I believe. I guess it would go here. Because it could also go there because that also has a Soviet unit proximate. So now we go back to our Soviets here. So these are the cards we have remaining. We have a 6th Army, a 1st Guards Army. We have the 69th, the 40th, and Popov. So I think in this case, I'm going to play this to deploy my mobile, or my Popov reserves, of which I have 2. So I have these guys right here. So we'll show how to deploy units from the player side here. Okay, so in this case, they need to be near their cohorts here. And they can be on them. They need to be 3 from a German unit or 2 if it's on a map edge. So I can place them here, or theoretically I could also place it here. But since the bulk of their forces are here, and this is more 6th Army, I didn't put these back off in the discard area. We're going to put them both here. So that takes care of that. That's a quick and easy one. We'll draw for the Germans again. Now we get Corps Raus. So turns 1 and 2 event Kempf delaying force. So a delaying force is right here. In the indicated German army area, place a detachment in the empty position hex that is in German reserve supply and a victory point hex or within 5 hexes of a German unit, and to which a Soviet unit is proximate but not adjacent. So again, we're going to have a problem here because here's a position hex. German units adjacent, so that one wouldn't work. Another one's up here, okay? But we don't have a Soviet unit that's proximate to that. The Soviets, because we have German units in these hexes. So all of these are zones of control. We can't get through them. So this card cannot, that event cannot be played. Deploy all three corps reserves. We don't have any. Oh wait, 3 corps reserves. Yes, we do, but they can't be deployed. We already know that. That's turn 3 and on. Activate all units in Corps Raus. So we're going to activate our units in Corps Raus. And we're going to go and draw an event card, I think. Because the Corps Raus units are here. These two and this guy, who is basically surrounded. And then these two up here. Okay, so one of the first things you check, in fact, the first thing you check is if a unit is behind enemy lines. Now, you might look at this guy and say, hey, he's behind enemy lines, because he kind of is, but it's wandering behind enemy lines. He's not eligible because he's surrounded, because that's an enemy zone of control, and so is that. And those are the only places he could move, so he's essentially surrounded. So we would move to the second one, which is move to an empty or garrison victory point hex to which Soviet unit is proximate. So again, we're going to get into that proximate issue again. We don't have a victory point hex that qualifies for that. Now, if in 4th Panzer Army or Corps Raus and in the Soviet artillery zone, which is true for these two, move to hex outside zone. Prefer not in danger of surround, empty, not adjacent to a German unit, not in the clear hex. They can't move here because of the zone of control, but they can move up. So their movement limit is 4, but they can move here for 2 and then into here for 2. I think that's 2. Actually, that's only 1. But it's woods, which is what they would want to do. And then these guys are dispersed, so they're not allowed to move. But the dispersed marker comes off at their activation, so they are eligible to take that action as well. So they would move 1, 2, 3, and then I would think they would move to an empty hex. They would move here, I think. And then that would complete the act. Well, would it though? I think we have to draw action cards for these guys. So fighting withdrawal, an active unit surrounded and adjacent to a hex in German supply or in which the unit would not be surrounded. So that does not apply here. These guys are not surrounded. So that situation doesn't apply. We draw the next action card, deploy garrison. Place 1 garrison in an empty position hex, meeting all criteria. German reserve supply within 3 hexes of a supplied active German unit. And a Soviet unit is proximate but not adjacent. Well, actually, we can put one. These two are eligible. So let's put a garrison in here. And that's the lower one, so we'll put it right there. And that, I think, will complete their activation. I'm going to play this to deploy 40th Army Reserves, of which there is 1. And that's this guy right here. And we will deploy him here. 1, 2, yeah, that's good. And that takes care of that card. That is a primary. We'll draw for the Germans again. They get the 47th Panzer Corps of the 4th Panzer Army. And they get to deploy all reserves. And they do not have any, nor do they have any units on the map. They had one unit and has been eliminated. We drew the same one. So I guess in that case, with having drawn two, I'm just going to say that they can't do anything that turn. So now we have the 69th, the 6th, and 1st Guards. 1st Guards has not done anything. They do also have a reserve, so I'm going to play this for that. So we will take their reserve unit here, and we will put him here. And discard that one. Go back to the Germans. They get the 40th Panzer Corps. So these are the blue guys, and this is deploy all 40th Panzer Corps reserves. So we're back to deployment issues. Now the 40th Panzer Corps are these guys over here. It's this guy right here. So they don't have anybody that can be deployed. They do have units, but they don't meet the criteria for deployment in turns 1 or 1 through 3. Because method A doesn't work. So then you have activate all units. So they do have one unit here that we can activate. And so then we would go through the activation. Deploy garrison. Again, we don't have any. It's this proximate that always basically wrecks us here. When action cards run out, I believe you just simply shuffle them. Deploy flank protection. So within 3 hexes of an active unit, not adjacent to a Soviet unit, and German reserve supply would cause a German unit in danger to no longer be, we don't have any danger of surround, so that would be 2. And so we would go to the IP situation where they already have one. I'm thinking there's really not much we can do. You get kind of limited at the beginning because there's just not that many forces out on the map. And once you get to these late stages of the turn, there isn't a whole lot to do either. We're going to activate the 6th Army, which are these guys here. And then I'm going to play the assault coordination, which means I'll be able to use all these Popov units to attack this guy. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to advance this guy here to this hex. And we'll leave this one. Actually, we're going to advance him across the river. So we'll go here. So now we've got, we're in the artillery zone. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 2 is 10. Actually, he's not involved. They're not involved. So you got 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 1 for artillery is 8, plus another for assault coordination is 9. It's 9 chits. So we're going to draw an action card for the Germans. They do the remnant again. And I forgot to put a garrison down the last time we had that. I will try to remember that this time. It really doesn't matter all that much because it only matters when the Soviets are trying to move and they run into that kind of pseudo zone of control for the remnant or the garrison, actually. So we're going to draw 2 chits. And then ultimately we're going to draw, again, it's 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can draw 7 more. All right, so let's see what we got here. So this one is defender not supported. That doesn't apply. Less than 3 to 1 also does not apply. Then we've got a greater than 3 to 1, which does apply. So this one applies. So they have 3. We have 3, 7, 11, 14, 17, 19. 19 to 3 is 6 to 1. So I'm going to pull out 7 more here. All right, so here we have a greater than or equal to 4 to 1. That applies. A greater than or equal to 7 to 1 does not apply. Flank attack does apply. Combat engineer does not apply. Dispersed and unsupplied do not apply. Greater than 1.5 to 1 does apply. So that one is going to cost the Soviets a step. German air power does not apply. Soviet air power does not apply. Dispersed and unsupplied does not apply. Defender adjacent does not apply. And then finally, we get city woods. Doesn't apply. Clear does apply. All right, so the Soviets take 2 hits and the Germans take 4. So that will eliminate this unit. So he is eliminated. And again, I'm going to flip him over and I'm going to put him in the eliminated unit box from which he can return. So we will put all of these to the side and we will do 2 hits to the Soviets, of which one has to be an armored unit. So unfortunately for the Popov unit, they're the only ones who do have a armored unit. So they're going to take it from this guy here. Actually, no, we'll take it from this guy. We'll leave that one alone. We'll take it from there. That's 1. We'll take the other one from this one. And we'll move him up there. And that will end that. And that is all the cards that I have in my hand. So that actually ends the turn. And this ends this extremely long video. This is possibly the longest one I've ever done. It might not be, but it's close. So here we have all the, actually I put that in the wrong pile. These are all the primary cards. So they go into their own discard pile. And then the supplementals that were used that turn, that's this pile, they do not get used again as we get set up for the next one. So they stay where they are. These guys go back in the draw pile and we're going to shuffle them with cards from the other. And we're going to add a couple of cards as well. We have 3 new cards here that have GT2 in the top right corner. So these will get added to the mix for game turn number 2 as well. But for now, that's going to wrap up this video because it's gotten extremely long. So these will also go out to the discard area. And we're going to wrap it up. And hopefully you got an idea of how this game plays. I didn't move the camera at all, as you probably noticed. There isn't a whole lot else to see. There's a calendar with, what replacements are coming in. The Soviets actually managed to get all of their reserve units onto the map. The Germans got only these 2. Now, I'm sure I probably messed something up. There is a lot of things to remember in this game, and I'm sure I messed some stuff up. Some I may notice while I'm editing, others may get through, and people who've played the game more than I have might have some insight there. But again, I just wanted to kind of show how the Soviet solo plays. This is the easier of the 2 solo games. The German solo rules, I think, are about 7 or 8 pages longer than the Soviet solo rules. So that will do it for now. Hopefully this was useful. I do appreciate those of you who watched the whole thing, or at least most of it, sticking around. Please consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing to help support the channel. That is always appreciated. But that's going to do it. I will kind of assess whether I want to continue this with turn 2 or perhaps do something from the German solo, or maybe simply just move on to a different game for now. So we'll see how the comments and views and things go for this video once it's posted. But for now, that will wrap it up. I'm Joe. This has been the Hexed Encounter channel. And until next time, as always, my friends, happy gaming.